It's with great pleasure that I get to introduce Ștefăniță Manea. He's a master's student in the Mind the Brain program in cognitive science. This is a master's program at the Faculty of Philosophy of the University of Bucharest. Ștef is also a director, and he had the idea to put this thing together. He's going to be speaking to us today about the curious case of Mr. Hitchcock. Ștef, please take it away.
Thank you, Andre. For all the audience, I'm director, but probably better understand as movie director, not just director. So this is not an administrative job, fortunately. So the initial title for this presentation was changed because if we are talking about movies, I try to imitate one, the title of one. We are talking about Kuleshov Effect, and Professor Stănescu had a very nice presentation of the history of the effect and the let's say surrounding cultural and political environments regarding this effect. But I will talk in this presentation, I will try to turn the point of view from the perspective of theory of mind, trying to explain this effect using the theory of mind. So from the beginnings, the cinema was struggled with to demonstrate that is a form of art. It has his own language, and this language is very, very powerful. I think it succeeded on all the points. And I think it's important to understand why this effect appeared in that period of time and why it was related to the cinema as art, because it was considered as an element of language. It was considered of being the heart, the core idea of making movies, of making films. And what we consider today to be just an effect, it was in fact an intention of the authors to create a different reality from different shots, not containing that reality, as we may say, we may view. So the first was the Russians. These Russians were the most important, let's say, in the history of the cinema. Russians had the first academy for studying at the academic level film in Moscow. And first of them is Mr. Kuleshov himself. Next, Mr. Pudovkin, and the other one is Mr. Eisenstein. For Kuleshov, the main idea was that emotions of a character are perceived due to the context. For Pudovkin, the main idea was that montage, or in English, assembly of a movie or of a film, is the main tool to create films as art. And for Eisenstein, it was a very interesting idea. It came from Japanese ideograms, and he thought that combining shots in the same way these ideograms are combined, you can create new meanings. And this is what it called, and is called from that on, the intellectual montage, the intellectual assembly of a film. So this was the context, let's say. Now, what is Kuleshov effect? Professor Stănescu explained before, but the main idea is that at the beginning they considered that a neutral expression of an actor is perceived as conveying a specific emotion based on the context provided by the adjacent images. And this is the main idea, but this is not the only idea carried by this effect, and we will see that in another example. We will see now what is considered to be the original Kuleshov effect. As Professor Stănescu said before, it seems that the original shots were lost, but there are some shots, and I found and everyone can find them on YouTube, that were considered to be the original. Maybe they were made some years after the initial experiment. I don't know. Here are. So this is the effect. There are three contexts, three different sequences, the same phase, exactly the same phase at the beginning and at the end of the sequence. And intertwined in the middle of the sequence, there is a different shot representing something different. It seems that the initial experiment was made only with the shot at the beginning of the sequence, not at the end also. But when I learned about this effect in school, we learned like this. We learned like this with the shot of the face with a portrait of the man at the beginning and at the end of the sequence. And they perceive it at the moment like this face will gather an emotional status that it was not present at the beginning. I think it's quite difficult to observe it now, and that's due to many things, technical things, the quality of the pictures. There are many artifacts, let's say, that can contribute to observing or not observing the effect. But now I will show you another one, and this is made by Hitchcock many years after this initial effect. And it is combined. Hitchcock had this idea to combine the philosophy and the concept we stayed at the beginning of this effect from Kuleshov with the ideas from Eisenstein and with the ideas based on this concept of intellectual montage. Let's see the other one. So this is the effect. And now we will see how Hitchcock himself explained it. I don't know why I don't have sound at all, but it doesn't matter because it is titled, so you can understand. Sorry, this is something wrong. So these are the explanations of Hitchcock. I try to find a better position to see the audience, the real audience, and to be seen also in Zoom, and it's very strange. So the main idea behind this Hitchcock experiment is that we can manipulate the audience in order to perceive our message. And the audience is manipulated by the context in which an emotional status is shown. And we have this old man. It is associated, firstly, it's associated with the picture of a baby and her mother. And the old man is perceived as a benign and kindly gentleman because of this association. And then exchanging the middle shot with a woman in bikini, the old man is perceived as being not any more benign and not any more kindly, but a dirty old man. But what is interesting is that we have exactly the same face and exactly the same emotional reaction, which is that smile and specific eye gazing, right? Now, what are the differences between the initial Kuleshov effect and this effect? First, I think in the initial effect, they used a neutral face, and they said, associated with different context, and they said that this face, this expression, will acquire an emotional status, an emotional value. So the audience was expected to add an emotional value to that face. In the Hitchcock example, the face already have an emotional status, an emotional value. That guy is smiling and is looking in a specific way, transmitting a specific emotion or a specific emotional status. So Hitchcock's version adds a reaction. That reaction, I think, is very, very important in order to analyze, at least from the perspective of theory of mind, what the audience will perceive. That reaction represents a clear emotional status and a visual sign of a defined, very well-defined mental state. And this is not happening in the first example. And I think Professor Barat and all the others were studying only the first example. Maybe he will confirm. And I think it's, as Andrei put it at one of our discussion, a cinema venue, the cinema screen can be seen as a laboratory of studying faces and human reactions, because it's a big screen, you have big faces, you have many details, you can analyze them, and it's quite different than being on the street and seeing the same, let's say, faces and the same emotional reactions. So inside this lab, which is the cinema screen, we can analyze better probably these effects of emotional status on people's expression. Now, we have theory of mind. There are two different theories in theory of mind. One is theory, also known as folk psychology. I think it is not the right paradigm to explain this effect and generally to explain theory of mind, but I will not get into this discussion now because it's a very broad one. And there is the other version, the other theory in theory of mind called simulation theory. And I will try to analyze shortly what this theory will say about this effect, how this theory, in the view of Goldman and others, will explain what happened in this sequence. First of all, simulation theory is saying that there are two levels of simulation. There are two levels where we build our theory of mind, our knowledge about the other mind. One is the basic level, and one is the high level. At the high level, they are very close to the theory, so to the other theory in theory of mind. The main difference, I think, between the two theories is at this basic level, which is somehow new and original for simulation theory. Now, Goldman said that phase-based emotion recognition, which is called FABR, is a low-level mind reading, is primitive, is automatic, and is below the level of consciousness. So it's something that we might call, using one word, as being instinctive. Then he said that basic emotions has this spatial survival value. So maybe specialized programs may have evolved for emotion recognition that do not operate in other mind reading domains. The main idea here is that it's thought that theory of mind evolved through our evolution as a species, but not only human animals have it, but also other animals, at least primates and other mammals. And there is a special value in this species' ability to read minds or emotion on other individuals, because of that, due to that, they are able to react in different life situations like fight and flight and other situations. So it's not the same to see and interpret the face of the lion in front of you of being friendly or not. I think it's a big difference in here. But this is the main idea behind, and the simulation theory acquired this meaning, and they stated that it should be a value of this theory of mind, which can be observed in our evolution as a species. Now, emotion reading may be based on a type of process. They call it mirroring process. That's this cognitively fairly primitive, again, whether or not it's innate or whether or not is involved for emotional detection. So this mirroring effect process means that this is the main idea behind simulation theory, that an individual trying to read the other's mind is imitating or is simulating, internally simulating, using a kind of mirroring mechanism or a reflection mechanism, is imitating the emotional status of the other, and this is the way it decodes it. So for an animal, for a human, the ability of perceiving the other's emotional status is due to her own ability to have that emotional status. Without this mirroring or this reflection of the other's emotions in our own mind, we're not able to detect the emotions. This is the main concept, the main idea behind simulation theory. They found, in fact, some Italian guys from Parma University found a very interesting structure, neuronal structure called, they called it mirror neurons. I think Anna will tell us more about this structure. And this neuronal structure was associated with the simulation theory, and the simulationists thought and think that this is the neurobiological layer responsive for implementing this mirroring system and the simulation system. From Galese and the others' point of view, these mirror neurons can be characterized as providing a distinctive kind of social understanding. So this is more developed in other papers, that there is a semantic value of recognizing the other's emotion and the other's reaction and the other's state of mind. And this mirroring system has this value of decoding, of semantically decoding the other's mental status. And maybe the most important thing here is to understand that this mechanism of understanding the other's emotions is not a conceptual one, is not one based on thinking, on rationality, on logic. It's just somehow a hardwired mechanism, a hardwired detector of the emotional status in the others. These are the main concepts. Now, I try to formalize what happened in Kuleshov effect. And we have the same facial expression, it's F, associated with an identical state of mind, which is S. So we have the facial expression of Mr. Hitchcock, two of them, right? Then there is a state of mind associated with each of the reactions, right? We have two different contexts, the mother with the child and the girl in the bikini. And we have associated to these two different emotions, E1 and E2. The viewer, the audience, will associate these two emotional status to the character. So, using propositional logic, we can say that F and S and C1 implies E1, and F and S and C2 implies E2. So the emotional reaction detected in the first context is E1, and it is determined by F, S, and C, and E2 is determined by F, S, and C2, right? But we have same expression, same face. And that face is read by the audience as symbolizing two contrasting mental states. One time is a benign gentleman, and the other time is not a benign gentleman. One time is a kindly old man, second time is a dirty old man. These are not only different, these are opposite, these are contrasting. We can say that E1 is equivalent with E prime, let's say, and E2 is equivalent with not E prime. So the context C1 leads to E1, E prime, and the context C2 leads to not E prime. But here is the trick. In fact, we have only one state of mind, which is the actor state of mind. The actor had a state of mind which produced his expression, right? Maybe Mr. Hitchcock was thinking about his cat smiling, or about his wife or his nephew, I don't know. He was thinking about something, but that something is not perceived by us. It is opaque to us because we have that context, and that context made us view only what they implies, the emotional reaction that the context themselves implies. So let's call this real state of mind and real emotional status X. We'll have here a contradiction that X implies E in the same time X implies not E. So the same real state of mind is generating two different, but not different, opposite emotional perceived by the audience. That's quite strange. Now, let's play more with the moves. We have the face, the man is looking, and we have reaction. We have no reaction, right? again. I think the yes, they are misplaced. So what I did here was to take out the reaction from the experiment of Mr. Hitchcock. And I made it to look similar with the Kuleshov effect, with the initial Kuleshov effect. I have the same phase at the beginning and the same phase at the end without reaction. In between, we have two different contexts. Now they are looking different. They look like, the face look like judging something, or I don't know, not understanding. But the reaction in the original example is very, very powerful in making us believing that there is a specific content of that mind. So this idea was intended to show that there is a big difference in having a reaction at the end and not having. And my question for Professor Stănescu before was, if the emotional status is conveying the propositional status, the conceptual status, the judgment we make about that character or not. And I believe it is, as Professor Stănescu said, confirmed. I think we use this emotional trigger and then we try to resolve the sequence. And as Sandra will probably propose tomorrow in her presentation, we'll have this narrative competence that makes us to understand the relation between agents and actions. And maybe you use that to understand what can happen and what is the relation between the character and the preceding shot. But the main idea is that, firstly, at the low level, we have this emotional status, this emotional reaction that I think is triggering the next level, which is our conceptual thinking and propositional understanding of the specific reality. So what can be the consequences of these observations? If theory of mind is thought to be a very powerful tool in our evolution, how can it be so misplaced? How can it be so wrong? In real life, if I will not be able to make the difference between a smile and another type of smile, I can be dead. So is theory of mind real? Is theory of mind really a tool in our evolution? If it is so easy to manipulate it, and it's so easy to transform it to the opposite direction, can it still be seen as a tool in our evolution? Of course, you will say, probably, you observed already that cannot happen in the real life. We cannot have in the real life, we cannot have the same face and exactly the same expression happening two times, but they can be similar. And I think if this was something that nature invented for us in order to help us, it should be a better tool, a more precise one. Then, as I said, it should deliver a high degree of accuracy, and it should be reliable enough to forecast their behavior. I mean, the behavior of agents. The main question is, if this is not the right explanation, theory of mind, in my opinion, cannot explain in a very good way this process, the Kuleshov effect. And if it is not able to explain it, what other mechanisms, what other theories can explain? As I said, Sandra will propose tomorrow that narrative competence will explain that, and it's true, but I don't think it's true for monkeys, only for humans, and for other animals, I don't think it's true. This raises the question, these mechanisms should be common for animals, for non-human animals and for human animals, for humans, or not? If they are different, why they are different, and where they are split? If these disparities are so significant, why is that? Because otherwise we see a lot of similarities between us and many other species. And why this is different? I think these are some questions to be answered, and this is what I'm working on. But for this presentation, I intended only to show you another version of the Kuleshov effect. I think it's more powerful than the initial one. It's not studied at the moment, not with the same tools as Daniel used for the initial one. And I think it is questionable if theory of mind should remain like we understand it today, or maybe we'll create a new version of it in order to be able to answer these questions. That's all. Thank you. Questions, if there are questions.
Thanks so much.
Of course.
Okay, well, thanks very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
And I agree that adding the reaction shot makes a huge difference. And that is one of the main drawbacks from what we did. I'll be showing what we did tomorrow, so we can contrast and compare. Right? Excuse me. So you're talking about theory of mind, and then you make a distinction between theory and simulation theory. In theory you didn't really touch on. But then simulation theory, we talk about low-level simulation versus high-level simulation. And then for low-level simulation, we gave the example of basic emotion recognition and mirroring process, possibly involving mirror neurons. I was just wondering, what about the high-level simulation? Where does that fit into your camp? Because it seems that what you mentioned was just the low level. So this was the automatic, as you say, the hardwired, immediate recognition of the smile, and maybe some mirroring process. It could be effective mimicry in the face, it could be mirror neurons in the brain. But all of those are kind of automatic. So they're examples of low-level simulation. Is that,
yeah, sure.
am I understanding you correctly?
Yes.
So what role do you see for the higher level simulation, and what would high level simulation be?
It is exactly what Hitchcock explains when he's saying this is a benign gentleman and this is a dirty old man. That's the second level. That's the higher level. But at the first level, it was an emotion, a smile that was triggering. That was triggering and biasing and explaining the narrative sequence, the relation between the shots. Because here's the case. We have two shots. One of them is common. We have this reaction, smile. We smile in different situations, but usually we smile in a way to a child, and maybe we think we smile in a different way to a woman. But maybe this is not a real difference. Maybe we just perceive it as being a big difference. If we analyze the sequence, we will see that the example is very, very interesting and very, very fine-tuned. There is a reaction of the woman in bikini. She's looking a bit to the character. Then is the cut. Then she's getting this gaze of the woman, and the reaction is linked to that. And we observe that. And when you observe that, we create the link between them. But I think this is our judgment. I think a monkey is not doing that. But I think the monkey is perceiving the smile. And maybe I think consider it a good sign. Probably. I'm not sure about that. We'll see. But that's the first level. It happens for every animals. And then is the second level, which is, I think, available only for humans. At this level, theory and simulation theory are intertwined, are mixed, are something, there's not clear cut between them. It's kind of psychology. We use our culture, our education to decode all these signs.
Is it simulation? Do you simulate being a dirty old man, or do you just infer that?
I think you infer. Exactly. We discussed yesterday in the car that we infer that because we cannot have the same experience. A woman looking at the guy, looking at another woman, the almost naked woman, will have a reaction. But a guy will have a different reaction. Why? Because they have different experiences. A woman cannot be in that position. She couldn't be in that position because she's a woman, right? But the guy could be in that position, and maybe it can reflect that. And I agree with you here that this is inference, not simulation. At the second level.
This is closer to theory.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
But there are still two levels. And I think the emotional reading is at the basic level.
Yeah.
Then we use our mind, concepts, culture, experiences to decode, to infer the mental state. Sorry.
Two quick follow-ups on this, if I may. Now, firstly, just because there are different experiences, does that entail that it's not simulation, it's inference?
It can be a sign for that. It can be a hint for that. Because how can I simulate something that I don't have? I don't have this experience in mind. How can I simulate something that I do not experience?
Okay, good. And secondly, why was emotion pinned to the low level mind reading? Why wasn't it sort of all across the?
I didn't pin it.
Okay.
They pinned it. Goldman did it. Goldman Galesian.
But do you go along with that, or?
Yes. And I think there are many examples, and from film art there are many examples. What I talked yesterday with Daniel about Stanislavski's method. Stanislavski's method is a method of training actors how to act. And the main idea behind this method is for an actor to imagine something similar in his own life, for his or her own life, that is related somehow with the part, the role he or her have. So I need my own experience. Let's say my cat was dying and I started to cry there. And I play that, I imagine that when I have a broken relationship with my boyfriend. It's different experience, it's different situation, but the emotional reaction can be quite the same. Mm-hmm. And maybe with the tricks from the director, with the cutting and other things, they look very good on the screen. And maybe the losing my cat as an experience seen on my face is better than imagining my grandmother dying. I don't know. But these are tricks.
And so the emotion there would be something like that's bad, and that'd be sort of content.
Exactly. It is a fact that when we feel something, we express that something. That was a question with Danny yesterday. Why do you express things? I think this is the main question. Why do we express our emotions? What is the meaning of that? And can we refrain to do that? Usually not. It is very hard to refrain to express your emotion. You need a special, proper training. You need to be a spy, for example, to do that. And why are we doing that? But not only us. My dogs are expressing emotions. My cats are expressing emotions. Why they're doing that? If it is not useful.